I'm going to give you some advice on creating a good research question. So, first of all, you've got to start out with something, and usually that's some sort of general problem or issue. And so you have to jog your mind into what issues you might be interested in. So you could personally just reflect and think of what areas of education and technology are you interested in the moment. If it's something you're interested in, you'll probably be motivated enough to find a good question. And then you might also think about what problems you're aware of right now in your classroom or in your current situation, problems that might have occurred, and you might be curious about them. The other thing you could do is take a look at some of these websites, Issues in Education, Research for Teachers, and the online teacher resource. And you'll have this document so you can have the links. And that might help you. That'll take a little bit more time, but it'll sort of cue you into current issues in education, what's hot, what's interesting. And that might be actually a very good way to start generating some areas and problems that you might want to investigate. So you have to move from that general topic or problem into something more specific. And what I suggest is that you take a look at these 3 videos. And again, I'll give you this document so you can look at them. They're pretty good, short videos. So if they're not good, then they're short. It won't have wasted too much time. But I think they provide some sound advice to developing questions. The other thing you can do is read, these are web-based articles. They're relatively short, so read articles on creating good questions, and I would advise doing that. So when you think you have something, or actually I would write down a few somethings, you could start writing. So you start with the general topic, and then you get more specific. And the way you get more specific is start expanding on what you mean. You keep asking yourself, well, what do I mean by this? And you it starts getting bigger and bigger, and then smaller and smaller, because you start to focus specifically on what you're interested in. And I'll give you some examples in a moment. You could also ask yourself, and it's very important, how am I going to measure this? How am I going to come up with the evidence? And that's really important, because that'll help you specify it, because as soon as you start thinking about how you're going to measure it, then it'll become very clear to you that your topic might be too big. Eventually you can come up with a question, some sort of a question, and then you can start searching articles already about your question. Maybe there's stuff already written, and you can take a look at it. Maybe somebody has answered your question, but maybe not in the way that you think it should be answered. You might look for some refinements, and so I recommend going to Scholars Portal and Academic Premier, and you should at this point have enough keywords based on your question to do a search, which will find things of interest to you. So let's go over example 1. So say you were interested in technology and adult education. So then to refine that, you might say, what specific kind of technology are we talking about? What area of adult education? What specific area? And what about technology and education are you interested in? Are you interested in learning performance, attitudes, whatever? It's hard to know. So a more specific question might be, what are higher education students' attitudes toward the use of wikis? And you might even put higher education science students, if that's your focus. The more specific, the better. Well, up to a point. Then check out the research, see what's been looked at already. Is there anything new that needs to be examined? Are the methods that were used sound? Are they valid or reliable? Do they have enough data? And is there something new to look at? So then you can refine your question, and it might be, what are higher education students' attitudes towards the use of wikis in online learning environments? It might be that there's a lot of research on the use of wikis in the classroom, but nothing on online learning environments, so it's something new to look at. Let's take a look at a second example. So say you're interested in the use of smartboards in education. So then you might say, well, what are smartboards used for? What's the purpose? To get a little bit more refinement. What grades are they being used for? What are you interested in? And are there different kinds of smartboards? So then you might come up with a more specific question. What is the impact of using electronic whiteboards in elementary school classrooms? Then you can start to check the research out and see what's looked at, see how you might want to refine that further. And so then you might get to what is the learning impact of using electronic whiteboards in elementary school classrooms for review. So it's a purpose and it's looking at their learning impact, not attitudes, for example. You may want to refine that even more, a little bit more by looking at specific grades, so in grades 3 to 5 or something of that nature. And that would be a nice research question. So I would advise going through this process and generating a few possibilities, 3 or 4 possibilities that you might be interested in, and then go over them with your supervisor to get something specific.